The breaking point, Priya Sharma stared at her computer screen, the blue light highlighting the dark circles under her eyes. Another one of her designs had been completely overhauled, barely resembling the innovative concept she'd originally presented. The clock on her desk read 9:47 p.m., another late night at Malhotra Architects, one of Bangalore's most prestigious firms. "Still here, Sharma?" Vikram Malhotra's deep voice made her jump. He stood in the doorway of the open office, his tailored suit still impeccable despite the late hour. At 38, he had already revolutionized urban architecture in India, his buildings winning international awards for their blend of sustainability and cultural elements. "Just finishing up the Horizon Tower revisions, sir," Priya replied, straightening her posture. Vikram approached her desk, scanning her monitor with critical eyes. "The cantilever still doesn't work with the overall structure. Adjust it by morning." Without waiting for a response, he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing in the nearly empty office. Priya's fingers curled into fists beneath her desk. For 2 years, she had poured her heart and soul into this firm, hoping Vikram would recognize her talent. Instead, he seemed determined to strip away every trace of her creativity from each project. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate, Aisha. "Did you tell him yet?" Priya typed back, "No, tomorrow." The resignation letter sat in her bag, printed on expensive cream paper. She had drafted it 5 times, trying to sound professional rather than defeated. The job offer from a smaller, more innovative firm in Pune had come 3 weeks ago. They had sought her out after seeing her personal portfolio website, projects Vikram had deemed too experimental for actual clients. The next morning, Priya arrived early, determined to submit her resignation before losing her nerve. But Vikram wasn't there. His assistant Rohan informed her that Mr. Malhotra was working from his villa for the day. "He specifically asked for you to bring over the Horizon Tower mock-ups when they're ready," Rohan added, handing her an address. "He's expecting them by noon." The address led Priya to a stunning modernist villa overlooking Hebel Lake. The structure seemed to float above the water, all glass and sustainable bamboo, with solar panels integrated seamlessly into the design. It was everything Vikram preached about in his lectures, and everything he rejected in her proposals. Clutching both her design portfolio and resignation letter, Priya rang the bell. No answer. She tried again, then noticed the door was slightly ajar. Professional instinct overcame hesitation, and she called out, "Mr. Malhotra, it's Priya Sharma with the mock-ups." Hearing what sounded like an acknowledgement from inside, she stepped into a sunlit foyer. The interior was minimalist, yet warm, with handcrafted furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows framing the lake. Following the sound of movement, she turned, a corner into what appeared to be a home office. "I've brought the revised—" Priya froze mid-sentence. Vikram stood by a window wearing only trousers, his back to her as he reached for a shirt. The morning light outlined his unexpectedly athletic frame, highlighting a large scar running across his right shoulder blade. He turned at the sound of her voice, eyes widening in surprise. For a moment, neither spoke. Employer and employee, caught in a tableau of mutual embarrassment. "I'm so sorry," Priya stammered, turning to leave. "The door was open, and I thought you said to come in." "Wait!" Vikram called, hastily pulling on his shirt. For the first time since she'd known him, the composed, intimidating Vikram Malhotra looked flustered. "Just give me a moment." As Priya retreated to the foyer, her heart racing, she realized the resignation letter had slipped from her portfolio onto the floor of his office. There was no going back now. Unexpected encounter. Priya paced in the sunlit foyer, mortification heating her cheeks. In the 2 years she'd worked for Vikram Malhotra, she had never seen him as anything but the impeccably dressed, intimidating architectural genius. The man who could reduce seasoned architects to nervous wrecks with a single raised eyebrow. Now she had seen him half-dressed, vulnerable, human. "Miss Sharma?" Vikram emerged from his office, now fully clothed in a casual linen shirt and trousers that looked far more relaxed than his usual corporate armor. In his hand was her resignation letter. "I believe you dropped this." Priya's stomach plummeted. "I was going to give that to you after discussing the Horizon Tower revisions." Vikram studied the envelope, his expression unreadable. "Perhaps we should address this first." He gestured toward an expansive terrace overlooking the lake. "Would you prefer to talk outside?" The terrace was a suspended garden, with native plants integrated among architectural elements of stone and reclaimed wood. It was exactly the kind of biophilic design Priya had proposed for the Horizon Tower's communal spaces, the same design Vikram had dismissed as impractical. "Your home is beautiful," she said, unable to hide her admiration despite her nerves. "The integration with the natural landscape is seamless." "Thank you." Something like pride flickered across his face. "It was my first completely personal project. No clients, no board members, no investors to please." He paused, looking out at the lake. "Just pure design. Is that why your own home embodies principles you reject in our commercial projects?" The question slipped out before Priya could stop herself. Instead of the sharp rebuke she expected, Vikram's mouth quirked into what might have been the ghost of a smile. "Observant as always, Sharma." He opened her resignation letter, scanning it quickly. "Adani and Associates. They do interesting work. They value innovation," Priya said carefully. "And they've offered me a position where I'd have more creative input." "And I don't value innovation?" There was a challenge in his voice, but also something else. Hurt, perhaps. "With respect, sir, you've altered or rejected every original concept I've proposed in the past year. The living walls for the tech campus, the community integration spaces for the municipal building, the rainfall collection system for the Horizon Tower." Priya found her professional frustration overriding her embarrassment about their earlier encounter. "I didn't join Malhotra Architects to be a CAD technician. I came because I believed in your vision of sustainable, culturally relevant architecture." Vikram leaned against the railing, studying her with an intensity that made her want to look away, but she held his gaze. "Do you know why I have this scar?" he asked suddenly, touching his right shoulder through his shirt. The non sequitur caught her off guard. "No, sir. I was 30, working on my first major international project in Singapore. I had designed an innovative cantilevered observation deck. Revolutionary, everyone said." His voice took on a distant quality. "I was so confident that I ignored the structural engineer's concerns about the support system. During construction, a section collapsed. 3 workers were injured, 1 critically." Priya's eyes widened. This wasn't public knowledge. She would have heard about it. The firm buried the story, paid off the workers and their families, redesigned with traditional supports. His jaw tightened. "But I knew. I've carried that man's broken body in my nightmares for 8 years." "I'm sorry," Priya said softly. "But what does that have to do with my resignation?" "Your cantilever design for the Horizon Tower." Vikram turned to face her fully. "It's brilliant, innovative, exactly what I would have proposed at your age. And it has the same structural vulnerability that nearly killed someone because of my arrogance." Understanding dawned on Priya. "So all those rejections were to protect you from my mistakes?" "Partly." He sighed, running a hand through his usually immaculate hair. "But I've also been struggling with my own fears. It's easier to reject innovation than to face the possibility of another failure." A silence fell between them, filled only by the gentle lapping of lake water against the shore below. Priya saw Vikram differently now, not just as the demanding perfectionist, but as someone carrying invisible wounds that informed his decisions. "I didn't know," she said finally. "How could you?" He glanced down at her resignation letter again. "But now that you do, I wonder if you'd be willing to hear a proposal before finalizing your decision." Before Priya could respond, her portfolio slipped from her grasp, architectural drawings spilling across the terrace floor. As they both knelt to gather the papers, their hands brushed, and for a moment, the professional boundary between them seemed as fragile as the papers fluttering in the breeze. Revelations. "These aren't for the Horizon Tower," Vikram said, examining one of the sketches he'd picked up. It showed a community center built around existing banyan trees, with rammed earth walls and passive cooling systems. "This is your personal work?" Priya felt exposed, as if he were looking at pages from her diary rather than architectural drawings. "Yes, just concepts I work on in my free time." "Your free time." Vikram's tone was wry, "which I've severely limited with all the revisions I demand." He gathered the remaining papers, taking time to study each one. His expression shifted from curiosity to something approaching admiration. "These are remarkable, Sharma. Why haven't you shown them to me before?" "I did, actually." Priya took the stack from him, carefully arranging them back in her portfolio. "The community integration concept was originally designed for the Bangalore Public Library project. You said it was too idealistic and ignored budget realities." Vikram winced. "Did I really say that?" "Those were your exact words." He gestured to two chairs positioned to catch both shade and breeze. "Please sit. I think we need to have a conversation that's long overdue." Once seated, Vikram stared out at the lake for a long moment before speaking. "I owe you an apology, Ms. Sharma. It seems I've been so focused on preventing failures that I've been blind to potential successes." "I don't understand," Priya said. "If you think my work has merit, why consistently shut it down?" "Fear," he admitted, the word seeming to cost him. "Not just of structural failures. The architecture world expects certain things from Vikram Malhotra now. Safe innovations, reliable returns. After the Singapore incident, I became conservative." "But your early work was revolutionary," Priya countered. "The Mumbai Cultural Center, the Chennai Eco Towers, those projects took risks, and nearly ended my career before it began." He rubbed his shoulder absently, where the scar lay hidden. "When the financial backers threatened to pull out after Singapore, I promised them guaranteed success. No more experimental designs. No more structural uncertainties." Priya considered this. "So you've been designing within constraints that don't actually exist anymore, except in your mind." Vikram looked startled, then thoughtful. "That's perceptive and unfair to junior architects like me who joined your firm because we believed in your original vision," Priya added, emboldened by his receptiveness. "Touché." A ghost of a smile played on his lips. "Tell me honestly, Sharma, what's the real reason you're resigning?" Priya took a deep breath. "I need to work somewhere my ideas are valued, where I can grow instead of being constantly pruned back. Adani offered me lead designer position on their new sustainable housing development." "Lead designer?" Genuine surprise crossed his face. "That's quite a step up. They saw my portfolio website, the one with all these too idealistic designs." She couldn't keep the hint of pride from her voice. Vikram leaned forward, elbows on knees, studying her with new intensity. "What if I offered you something similar? Lead designer on the Mysore Cultural District project." Priya's heart skipped. The Mysore project was the firm's most prestigious, current commission, a 15-acre development combining historical preservation with cutting-edge sustainable design. "That's Rajesh's project. He's been working on it for months. Rajesh is brilliant with technical execution, but his vision is—" Vikram hesitated. "Safe," Priya finished for him. "Exactly." He nodded. "The clients are pushing for something more innovative, something that honors the cultural heritage while looking toward the future." His eyes met hers. "Something like your Community center concept, actually. Priya felt a surge of excitement, quickly tempered by suspicion. Is this just to keep me from leaving? A temporary promotion that disappears once I tear up my resignation? No. Vikram's response was firm. It's a recognition of talent I've been too blind or scared to fully acknowledge. He stood, walking to the edge of the terrace. You. No, I see myself in you, Sharma. The ambition, the creativity, the willingness to challenge conventions. You've had a strange way of showing it, Priya remarked, joining him at the railing. Yes, well, he gave a self-deprecating laugh. I'm better with buildings than with people. Always have been. Standing beside him, Priya noticed fine lines around his eyes that spoke of stress and sleepless nights. The impenetrable facade of Vikram Malhotra, architectural genius, was showing cracks, revealing someone more complex and human than she had imagined. There's something else you should know, he said, turning to face her. Your work hasn't gone unrecognized. I submitted your preliminary design for the tech campus, the original one with the living walls and community spaces, to the Asian Architectural Innovation Awards. You what? Priya stared at him in disbelief. But we didn't use that design. You rejected it. For the actual project, yes, but the concept itself was brilliant. A genuine smile transformed his usually stern features. It's been shortlisted for the Rising Star category. Priya felt dizzy with conflicting emotions. Anger that he'd submitted her work without telling her, confusion at his contradictory behavior, and undeniable pride at the recognition. I don't understand you at all, Mr. Malhotra. Vikram, he corrected gently. If you're going to be lead designer on a major project, you should use my first name. I haven't agreed to stay, Priya reminded him. No, he acknowledged. But I hope you will. Not just for the firm, but... He hesitated, something vulnerable flickering in his eyes. I think we could create something remarkable together. The way he said it made Priya wonder if he was still talking only about architecture. New perspectives. The morning after her unexpected encounter with Vikram, Priya arrived at the office with her resignation letter still in her bag, unopened, unsubmitted. She had promised him 24 hours to consider his offer. Lead designer on the Mysore Cultural District project with genuine creative control. There you are. Anjali, the firm's office manager, hurried toward her. Mr. Malhotra called an emergency meeting, conference room 5 minutes ago. Priya found the conference room buzzing with confusion. The entire design team was present, including Rajesh, who was supposed to be leading the Mysore project. He nodded curtly at her, his expression guarded. Before she could wonder what was happening, Vikram strode in. Unlike his usual formal business attire, he wore a charcoal shirt with rolled-up sleeves and no tie. The casual confidence suited him. Thank you all for coming on short notice, he began without preamble. I've been doing some reflection on our firm's direction. His eyes briefly met Priya's before continuing. We've become known for reliable, safe designs. Technically excellent, environmentally responsible, fiscally sound. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. But somewhere along the way, Vikram continued, we've lost something essential. The boldness that defined our early projects. The willingness to challenge conventions rather than simply refine them. He moved to the digital display wall and activated it. I want to show you something. The screen filled with Priya's community center design, the one he'd revealed was shortlisted for the Rising Star Award. Several colleagues turned to look at her with new interest. This concept embodies what we should be striving for, Vikram said. Innovation that serves human needs, sustainability that enhances rather than constrains, beauty that arises from function rather than being applied to it. Priya felt a flush of pride, tinged with confusion. Just days ago, he had been her harshest critic. Effective immediately, we're restructuring our approach to the Mysore Cultural District project. Vikram pulled up the project brief. Rajesh will continue as technical director, focusing on structural integrity and code compliance. But creative direction will now be led by Priya Sharma. A shocked silence fell over the room. Priya felt herself go very still, aware of the eyes turning toward her, some curious, some resentful. Rajesh spoke first. With all due respect, sir, Priya is a junior architect. This is a 300 crore project. Miss Sharma brings precisely the fresh perspective this project needs, Vikram replied evenly, and she won't be working alone. I'll be personally collaborating with her on the conceptual development. More murmurs, these of surprise. Vikram rarely involved himself directly in design work anymore, focusing instead on client relations and firm management. The rest of the team assignments remain unchanged, Vikram continued. Rajesh, I'd like you and Priya to meet this afternoon to ensure a smooth transition. That's all for now. As the team filed out, some offering Priya congratulations, others clearly reserving judgment, Vikram gestured for her to stay behind. Well, he asked when they were alone, have I convinced you to tear up that resignation letter? This is unexpected, Priya managed, still processing the dramatic shift. Yesterday, you rejected my cantilever design. Today, you're showcasing my work and promoting me to lead designer. Yesterday, I was still hiding behind fear, Vikram admitted. Your resignation forced me to confront what I've been doing, not just to you, but to myself. He leaned against the conference table. I built this firm to create architecture that matters. Somewhere along the way, I lost sight of that. Priya studied him, seeing sincerity in his usually guarded expression. What changed your mind? Really? Seeing your designs scattered across my terrace? A smile softened his features. They reminded me of my own early work, before Singapore, before I started designing from fear instead of passion. And the award nomination? Was that real? Very real. The announcement is next month in Delhi. His expression grew serious. Regardless of your decision about staying, your work deserves recognition. Outside the glass walls of the conference room, Priya could see her colleagues gathered in small clusters, undoubtedly discussing the sudden restructuring. Rajesh caught her eye through the glass, his expression unreadable. This promotion will create complications, she noted. Not everyone will be happy. Change rarely makes everyone happy, Vikram acknowledged. But sometimes it's necessary. He straightened, adjusting his cuffs. If you're concerned about Rajesh, don't be. His technical expertise is invaluable. He's just not a visionary. You are. The compliment warmed her, but Priya remained cautious. And what happens when we disagree? On design direction? Will you pull rank and override me like before? I expect us to disagree, Vikram said. Creative tension produces better results than harmony. But I promise you this, your ideas will be heard, considered, and respected. He extended his hand. Partners? Priya hesitated only briefly before shaking it. His grip was firm, his hand warm. Partners, on a trial basis. Fair enough. He released her hand. One more thing. The design presentation for the Mysore client is in 2 weeks. We'll need to work closely together to prepare. His expression was professional, but something in his eyes hinted at more complex emotions. I've cleared my schedule to focus on this. I hope you can do the same. Of course, Priya agreed, trying to ignore the flutter of anticipation in her stomach. 2 weeks of intensive collaboration with the man who had simultaneously been her greatest frustration and her professional idol. The man who, just yesterday, she had seen in a completely new light. As she left the conference room to gather her things for the meeting with Rajesh, Priya realized her resignation letter was still in her bag. She pulled it out, considering it for a moment, then decisively tore it in half. Whatever happened next, she was staying, at least long enough to See if Vikram Malhotra was truly capable of change. Bridging worlds. 2 weeks of intensive collaboration had transformed Priya's relationship with Vikram in ways she hadn't anticipated. The hierarchical distance between junior architect and firm founder had collapsed into something more fluid, and equal as they worked side by side, often late into the night, reimagining the Mysore Cultural District. Tonight was their final evening before the client presentation. They had commandeered one of the firm's design studios, architectural models scattered across tables, digital renderings projected on walls, and the remnants of delivered dinner pushed to one corner. The Heritage Conservation Council will fight us on the glass pavilion, Vikram said, studying the central feature of their design, a floating transparent structure that would house contemporary art while offering views of the historic palace grounds. That's why we need to show them this. Priya pulled up a nighttime rendering she'd been perfecting. The pavilion glowed from within, its structural elements deliberately echoing the geometric patterns of the palace's historic latticework. It's not an intrusion on the heritage site. It's a dialogue across centuries. Vikram stepped closer to examine the details, his shoulder brushing against hers. It's beautiful, he said softly. The way the light patterns create shadows that mirror. The original architecture, that's inspired. His proximity sent a now familiar warmth through her. Over the past fortnight, she had discovered different facets of Vikram Malhotra. The exacting professional, yes, but also the passionate advocate for social architecture, the mentor who challenged without diminishing, the man who laughed unexpectedly at her dry observations about client eccentricities. You should present this section tomorrow, he said, stepping back to break the moment. You articulate the concept more convincingly than I could. Are you sure? Priya looked up, surprised. The clients are expecting to hear from you. You're the Vikram Malhotra. And you're the Priya Sharma. His tone was warm with something that sounded remarkably like pride. The creative force behind this design. You should be the one to present it. She felt a rush of gratitude mingled, with a more complex emotion she wasn't quite ready to name. Thank you for trusting me with this. I should be thanking you, Vikram replied, moving to the window that overlooked Bangalore's nighttime skyline. 2 weeks ago, I was designing buildings. Now I'm creating architecture again. He turned back to her. Because of you. Because you were willing to change, Priya corrected, joining him at the window. Not many people would have had that courage. The city lights reflected in his eyes as he studied her face. Not many people would have been worth changing for. The words hung between them, shifting the atmosphere from professional to something far more personal. Priya felt her heart quicken, acutely aware of how close they were standing, how easily she could reach out and touch him. Instead, she gestured to the designs spread across the studio. We should finish reviewing the sustainability section before calling it a night. Vikram nodded, accepting her retreat to safer ground. They worked for another hour in companionable focus, fine-tuning presentation points, anticipating client questions. When they finally gathered their materials, it was past midnight. You should take my car service, Vikram offered as they rode the elevator down. It's too late for you to be taking a taxi alone. I'll be fine, Priya assured him. I've lived in Bangalore all my life. Humor me. His tone was light, but his expression serious. Professional courtesy. Outside, the night air was unexpectedly cool, a gentle rain having cleared the city's usual dust while they worked. His driver waited by a sleek black car. Thank you for tonight, Priya said, turning to bid him goodbye. For everything, really. Sharma, Vikram began, then corrected himself. Priya, there's something I need to tell you. She waited, watching emotions play across his usually composed features. The Adani firm called me yesterday, he said finally. They wanted to confirm you were still considering their offer. Priya felt a jolt of surprise. What did you tell them? The truth. that you're currently leading a major project for us, but that ultimately the decision is yours." He hesitated. "I wouldn't blame you if you still wanted to leave. What I've offered you, this project, this partnership, came very late." "I tore up my resignation letter the day after our talk at your villa," Priya admitted. "I've already declined Adani's offer." Relief visibly washed over him. "I'm glad, but also aware that I need to ensure you don't regret that decision." He took a breath. "Which brings me to what I really wanted to say." A taxi slowed nearby, its driver looking at them expectantly, but Vikram waved him on. "After tomorrow's presentation, regardless of the outcome, I'd like to take you to dinner," he said. "Not to discuss work, not as your boss." He held her gaze steadily, just as a man who has come to admire a remarkable woman. The directness of his words made Priya's breath catch. 2 weeks ago, she had walked into his villa planning to end their professional relationship. Now he was suggesting the beginning of something entirely different. "People will talk," she said, thinking of office politics, of Rajesh's lingering resentment, of the complications that would inevitably arise. "Let them," Vikram replied simply. "I've spent 8 years making decisions based on fear. I'm done with that." Raindrops began to fall again, light but persistent. Neither of them moved to seek shelter. "So," he prompted when she remained silent, "dinner?" Priya thought about the cantilever designs he had rejected out of fear, about the scar on his shoulder that marked a painful lesson, about the walls both of them had built and gradually dismantled over the past 2 weeks. She thought about how architecture was, at its heart, about creating spaces where human lives could unfold in all their complexity. "Yes," she said finally, rain dampening her hair, soaking into his shirt. "I'd like that." His smile transformed his face, erasing the last vestiges of the stern, distant man she had once been so eager to escape. He reached out, hesitantly brushing a raindrop from her cheek, the touch lingering just long enough to suggest possibilities. "Tomorrow, then," he said softly, "after we dazzle the clients with our revolutionary design." "Our design," Priya echoed, liking the sound of it. This bridge they had built between their separate worlds, strong enough now to carry them both somewhere new. As his driver held the car door for her, Priya glanced back at Vikram standing in the gentle rain. For 2 years, she had worked in his shadow. Now they stood in the same light, partners in creation, and perhaps, after tomorrow's dinner, something more. The resignation letter that had brought her to his villa that fateful day now seemed like a different kind of beginning. Not an ending at all, but the first blueprint for something neither of them had designed, but both might be ready to build together.